suing my daughter. She started feeling herself, I guess, thinking that she was grown and could do what she wanted to do.
Yeah.
That's true.
As long as I'm black, my child will respect what I say.
I was so scared. I was in an abusive relationship where I was somewhere I needed to leave. I'm a single mother who had struggled with money the entire time I lived with him. I liked our arrangement. He helped me with money. How was I supposed to do this?
Plaintiff Rukia Hostin claims her daughter stole her car, then totaled it. She's suing for $5,000 for car damage. Defendant Ijalong Hostin claims the car actually belonged to her, and she wasn't responsible for the accident. She says she owes her mother nothing.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Case 128 on the docket, Hostin versus Hostin.
Okay, and welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
The plaintiff, Ms. Hostin, you are suing your daughter for $5,000 for car damages.
Yes, I am.
Tell me your story.
I am suing my daughter, Ijalon, for $5,000 because she took it upon herself to do something that she knew she had no business doing. Taking a car out that she had no permission to drive and got into a wreck. I believe that you need to be held accountable, and frankly, in the words of my mother, as long as I'm black, my child will respect what I say.
Very good, and that's a good rule if you're white, too. I'm just saying. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay, you're suing your daughter. Okay, so what happened? She took a car.
Okay, so in my family, when you graduate, you get a car. And so Ijalon graduated in 2016. Me, my mom, my sister, and my husband all got together and we bought Ijalon a car.
I put in on it too.
What did you put in on it?
$500.
She helped with the down payment.
Okay.
So I don't know how you would say it. She started feeling herself, I guess, thinking that she was grown and could do what she wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so I took the car from her.
Was the car in your name?
The car is in my name.
Oh, so it's still your car?
But I was
Yes.
paying on it monthly.
Until the car got took, and then no, you weren't paying anything on it.
That's true.
So for how long have you not been paying now?
I was paying on it for a year, and then me and my mom had got into it about something, and she took it back, so I stopped paying on it.
March
Is when she stopped paying.
is when she stopped being
Okay,
able
so-
to drive the car because
So for
she
over
was big.
2 years now, you have not been paying.
Right.
Legally, the car is yours. You're now, I assume, making the payments on it?
Yes, I'm still
Do you
making
drive the car?
the car. I haven't seen the car since she got into a wreck.
For the last 2 years?
No.
What's happened with the car?
No,
It was just
sitting there
You're making payments and it's just sitting there on your driveway?
in the driveway, in my mother's driveway, actually.
Okay. So how much you still owe on the car?
I owe $15,025
Okay.
and 81 cents.
when exactly was this accident?
July.
First of all, I will say, just by observation, it's nice to see you guys are friendly. You know, you're smiling at
That's
each other.
still my mom.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
I
like-
know. And the part of my point, and you love each other.
Yeah, I like her a lot.
No, you
Well,
love her.
I
There are
love my
moments where you
daughter.
don't like her because you're angry.
Absolutely.
But you love her.
I
Which
love her
raises
more
the
than
whole question,
anything in this world.
why are you here? Tell me about the night of the accident, and then I want to see the police report and see what we're talking about here.
So I took the car, and there's a road in Washington. If you're driving down, it forks into 3 lanes. So I'm in the first lane. He's in the third lane, the guy who hit me. We're driving, and he makes a U-turn and smacks the front of the car. And the car spin out, and all the airbags deploy. So a bystander called the police, and when we got out the car, the guy came up to me and was like, "Don't worry about it, it was my fault, totally on me." So that made me think he had insurance. He didn't have insurance.
So there's a police report.
Yeah, oh yeah, I have the
Yeah, I
copy
want to
of the
see
police.
who was legally responsible for the accident.
I'd like to point out,
Yeah.
Your Honor, if I may,
Yes.
that Ijalon actually had permission to drive my mom's car But my mom's car has a like a GPS on it that
Yeah.
comes to my phone.
Yes.
So I can see when the car starts. I can see where the car goes. I can see when it's cut off.
And that's not the car she took.
That's not the car she took.
Isn't that a little weird? Like, okay, I'm taking the car. I don't want her to know exactly where I'm going.
Yeah.
So I took my car.
Isn't it weird that you didn't let your mother know that you had been in the accident for 24 hours?
I was scared.
Okay. The police report, based on my on-scene investigation, it is reasonable to believe that Maurice, that's the driver of the other car,
Yes.
failed to conduct a U-turn. Both Maurice and Ajalon provided me their current Washington driver license. Maurice failed to produce proof of insurance, though he claims to be insured. And he's the one that got the ticket?
Yes.
In terms of the sheer driving, not whether she had permission to take your car,
Okay.
but in terms just of the accident, that car was responsible, the driver of that car was responsible for the accident, not your daughter.
No, she wasn't responsible.
Let's say she didn't sneak the car out. She was saying, hey, Mom, I'm taking the car. Okay, honey. And this happened. You wouldn't be suing her. You would only be suing the people that hit your car.
But what I'm saying is, Ajalon had no business driving that car. And had that car been
So
sitting
that's
where it
what
was
we're
supposed
really-
to have been where it was supposed to have been sitting,
I
this
get
wouldn't
it.
have happened.
What ways are there to deal with this? And one way, I guess you could decide is, well, I'll sue her. That'll show her. Or another way may be to keep it out of a court. This is my daughter. And there's going to be another way, because you must feel responsible for this.
Yeah, I mean,
And didn't tell me that you had gotten to a wreck until 24 hours later.
And now, Mom is out of a car and is out a lot of money because of something you shouldn't have done. And you know you shouldn't have done it.
but okay, if I was paying her monthly for the car, don't you think technically I have some ownership of the car? Even if it legally is in her name, if I'm paying her for the
Watch
car.
my lips.
But you haven't paid it for the last 2 years. It's not in your name.
Right.
You're not paying the taxes on it. You're not making the payments on
But
it.
would you pay for a car that somebody didn't allow you to drive? And my mom used to use
I'm
that
not
car
saying
as
you
like
should.
a.
I'm saying it's not your car.
Right, okay, I guess.
Yeah,
So if it's not
your car.
yours, don't touch it.
I didn't think that
Okay.
you could like give
I
gifts
wanna-
and then take
okay.
them back.
Okay.
Like, your discretion. I don't think that's cool.
Of course, because
That's-
there's consequences to all actions.
I think there should be some punishment as a parent, an educational punishment. But I also think, along with this, she should start working to getting her own car. So here's my suggestion is, you start buying your own car.
So
Good,
she
that's
has
just-
a car now, and then I'm supposed to
Nope,
be out.
she's your daughter.
She is my daughter. But you know what? You have to teach your kids lessons, because I don't want anybody else to have to teach her these lessons.
For what she makes in life right now, this is a really big lesson. Judgment for the plaintiff.
Thank you.
It's love here. You got a good mother.
She's right.
I hope that she's learned that you have to be accountable. Like, we got a whole generation of people who just don't want to be accountable for their actions, and I just don't want this one to be like that.
I apologize for taking the car, but again, I still feel like I had some rights to the car. But I do understand with it not being insured and the tabs that wasn't the best idea.
I love you.
Plaintiff Ronaldo Ancog claims the defendant didn't pay rent for 7 months. He's suing for $5,000. Defendant Tanya Ballas claims the plaintiff let her pay rent whenever she had the money. She says she owes him nothing.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
It's case number 3 on the docket, Ancog versus Ballas.
Thanks, Najee. The plaintiff, Mr. Ancog,
Correct.
you are suing the defendant, Ms. Ballas, in the amount of $5,000 for unpaid rent and late fees. What's your story?
Your Honor, in 2012, my mother rented out a house.
Yes.
And we rented out to Ms. Ballas based on the recommendation of the neighbor.
Yes.
Who's the aunt.
Okay.
At that point, we set up a payment schedule.
Is there a signed
I'm
lease?
sorry. Yes, sir.
Okay. It's a one-year lease, but thereafter shall be month to month.
That is correct,
Okay, so
Your
it's a
Honor.
month-to-month lease. Now what?
The payment schedule extended a little bit past the 1 year.
Yes.
And then after that, it was supposed to be paid on the first of the month.
Yes.
At that point, every payment thereafter was late.
She lived there for about 6 years.
Approximately 6 years,
Okay.
Your Honor.
And
That
the
is correct.
payments were late, but they were eventually made.
They were eventually made.
So what's the situation now?
Last year, my mother decided to sell the property. In April-May timeframe, I notified the tenant that we'd be selling the property.
How would you notify the tenant that you're selling?
First by text and also by letter.
Do we have a copy of that?
I do not have a copy of the letters.
Do you deny being told that they're selling the house?
He told me through a text, which I do have,
Oh, okay.
in June, and then sent me a letter.
Oh, okay. So you did receive notice. He says April, you say June. When did you move out of the place?
September 1st was the day I signed my new
Okay,
lease.
so it's between 60 and 90 days.
Correct.
Notice you had. Okay, so now what's the situation?
At that point, she was several months late on the rent and just completely stopped paying any rent.
When she moved out, how much rent did she owe?
7 months.
You're
it's
saying 7 months
$700.
she lived there without paying the rent.
That is correct.
What is your story?
Okay, first of all, Your Honor, it was never a normal enter into a lease agreement, okay? I was in an abusive relationship and I was in a stuck situation where I was somewhere I needed to leave. His family had owned the property next to my aunt, who, by the way, is my only living relatives. I have no
Yes.
parents or siblings. And he was nice enough to let me move in, knowing he would not get any money until my student loans or my tax returns would come. Okay, so I actually have an email that I hadn't even paid him any money, and it was February at this point, and even though I moved in November.
So when you got, for example, your tax return, then you paid
Yes.
what the rent
This is how
was.
it was always been. I was never
6
just
years.
simply not paying. This is how it was
Okay.
always from the very beginning when I moved in.
Yes.
That's why we never re-signed a lease, because we never really stuck to the lease in the first place.
You don't deny that you still owe 7 months.
Well, there's other stuff to be said.
Okay, let's hear it.
Throughout the years, which I have tons of proof right here,
Yes.
there was multiple times when my basement flooded with sewage water. I had to clean that up on my own. I lost tons of stuff. He never replaced it.
Yep.
There was home repairs that were constantly need. Again, I have emails proving from him asking about the home repairs.
Yes.
And I never incurred any cost onto him because I was so scared. He was doing this thing for me where I could pay him with my tax returns. And as a single mom with no parents and no help, this was
Sure.
a huge factor in my life. But I was, after 6 years, sick of giving him my tax returns, right? So I had sent him a message explaining that I was downgrading. I had tried to put myself through college, and I was just sick of owing him, so I wanted to let him know I was downgrading my life. I was buying a cheaper car, I was cutting off my cable, and that I would start paying him the minimum of the monthly what I was supposed to, if not more, so that we could get caught up. It wasn't but 2 weeks after he knows I just spent whatever savings I had to buy a cheap car to get financially better, that he sent that message telling me that he was selling the property, knowing I just spent my savings on a car so that I could try to downgrade my life to get caught up with him. Yes, originally in that first lease, he says that he will give me 60 days notice. I'm a single mother who had struggled with money the entire time I lived with him, and he gives me 60 days after I just told him I was buying a cheap car to get caught up with him. How was I supposed to do this?
So here's what I'm understanding from this. As I understand it, your mom owns the property?
That is correct, Your
Okay.
Honor.
So legally, even though my heart goes out to you, legally, mom owns the property. She is allowed to sell her property, and with sufficient legal notice, this is sufficient legal notice, she has a right to sell. So what I have to figure out is you clearly owe for some of those 7 months, and clearly you did some property fixing, which is his responsibility, not yours. Some of the things is just you as a tenant wants to buy something for the apartment, you're allowed to do that, but it's not you made the decision to do that.
No, I never did anything like that. It was like waterproofing the basement because it was flooding.
That should be his.
Having my friends who were
Do
plumbers
you
come
have
over and snake.
do you have a list of the expenditures that you made to fix up the property so that I can then determine, is that something the landlord should pay or is that something the tenant should pay?
No, it was basically waterproofing the basement, snaking the basement.
Do you
when it-
still have her
from the
security
sewage.
deposit?
Yes, sir.
How much is that?
$700.
That's $700, okay. And you agree that when she had the flood there, you just were nodding your head before that is something you should pay for?
Absolutely, Your Honor.
Okay.
In fact, every time I was informed that there was a problem there, I said, let me call someone in to take care of that.
Were you reimbursed for the money put into that?
No.
Or did he pay to have it fixed?
He did, the last time, but before that, I was so scared. I liked our arrangement that he helped me with money and he
I
worked with me,
understand
that I
he
never
was being
wanted to
good to you.
burden him.
Was there a time that there was flooding, which would be his responsibility?
Mm-hmm.
Was there a time that he paid for it?
One time, yes. At the
And he
end.
gave you the money or he just hired
He
the
just
people to do it?
took care of it. Yes, he called the plumbers himself.
Okay. So you have $700 security deposit. That would take care of one of the months she owes. There's another month, because neither of you are giving me the exact cost of what she did and what you did.
I lived there so long, and I never. And,
I understand.
And it had even gotten an email from him like less than a year saying, "We have no desire to kick you out."
Being a single mother, tough job. And you're in a tough situation. But he's not guilty. His mom wanted to rent out the house. He's apparently been nice to you. You're not entitled to get fees for her paying late because technically you waived that right. Because for 6 years she was, you both agree, almost always late, and you permitted her to stay. So that is called waiving a right that you initially had. I'm not going to waive all the rent because you're entitled to it. She actually lived there. There were some expenses that you put in, so rather than giving you 7 months' rent, you've got the security deposit, which I'm going to put to some of the repairs, and one of the months' rent, she owes you 5 months' rent, and 2 months.
Your Honor, if I could just add one thing.
Yes.
Post moving out inspection revealed there was a lot of debris and a lot of damage to the house to the tune of $1,400, and also an unpaid water bill that remains with the house for $250 there.
I also have an email to counteract that says that, you know that I just bought a car, how am I supposed to do anything? And that
Well,
if you just gave me a couple more months,
okay.
that I would fix up the house and I wouldn't owe you anything if you could just give me a few more months in the property so that I could get my tax returns, pay you the back rent, pay you and fix the house. I think it's the middle one. It says I would fix it up to almost close to as I moved.
Okay, the house is being sold. Nothing we can do about that. The water bill is something you would owe.
I needed
If
to be
you
able to
do-
move out.
He's not responsible for the water you use. That was the original agreement. So I find a judgment, 5 months' rent, which is $3,500, judgment for the plaintiff.
I was hoping for more, but I think it was fair.
I felt it was okay.
Thanks for watching. Now please approach the bench. The way I look at it, you have 2 options here. Option A, watch more Judge Jerry. Option B, watch more Jerry Springer. The choice is yours. Now get out of my courtroom. You have more clips to watch. And don't forget to subscribe.